Good morning. It is actually kind of cold. It's about 53 degrees Fahrenheit. I don't know what that is, 10 Celsius, 11, 12 Celsius. It's going to go up to about 65 later today, just not quite yet. So we are biking back. We're biking back around in the Cleveland Heights, Cathedral Heights neighborhood. I'm going to head up to the Israeli embassy. I wanted to take a look and see if they've upgraded their security, given the situation that's going on currently in the Gaza Strip and in Jerusalem. Then we're going to head down to the White House, Black Lives Matter Plaza. There's been some changes down there as they're bulldozing most of the road. And then we'll just go explore, see what we can see. Should be fun, if I can stay warm. Got a lollipop. Ugh. Bug just flew in my face. That's the Moroccan embassy right there. Israel's up around the corner here. It's usually very heavily secured. More so in times of trouble, like now. Just an extra police car or two. Or three. How do we get through here? Let me paint it. That's the Israeli embassy. Not really that much of an increased security presence for the Israeli embassy. Now, the Palestinian Authority had an embassy, but it was closed in the Trump administration. So all it is now is a building for rent. So let's go down Connecticut Avenue, down to the White House. We can take this road all the way to the White House, actually. All right. So this is Connecticut Avenue. It's going to take us all the way to the White House. We could detour and go through Rock Creek Park, but on a rental bike, I don't know. There might be some sort of geofence restriction. Besides, we'll go by the zoo this way. The zoo is opening up at the end of the week. So maybe we'll get out to the zoo in the next week or so. A couple of the Smithsonians are opening up as well later this week. We're at 3600 block of Connecticut Avenue Northwest in Washington, D.C. And this next neighborhood up here is Cleveland Park. Sometimes you see me come down here and get on a subway when I'm in a hurry to get downtown. So we're going to stop here at this white building, 3524 Connecticut Avenue. Most recently a drugstore, but before that, for many, many years, in the 1950s and onwards, it was known as Yenching Palace. Yenching Palace was just I think it was a Taiwanese, Chinese restaurant here in Washington, D.C., and it was popular with people in the neighborhood. However, it had a hidden history. Yenching Palace is where the Cuban Missile Crisis was solved. Emissaries of the Soviets and emissaries of John F. Kennedy met over Chinese food here at Yenching Palace and sketched out a working idea that was to become the solution to the Cuban Missile Crisis. And it was all because a bowl of noodles, a little bit of chat between a journalist and a Russian emissary in Yenching Palace solved what could have been a major nuclear crisis. Anyway, it's up here at Cleveland Park. It's now abandoned, but that little bit of history still remains on a plaque outside. Now, let me get on the street here for a second. This little place over here is a Sam's Motor Mall or something like that. What's it called? I think it's called Sam's. Sam's Park and Shop. Okay. Sam's Park and Shop here on Connecticut Avenue is, well, it's a strip mall. Yeah, it's a strip mall. But I'm told by some architectural historians, this is like one of the first strip malls ever made in the United States. The idea of having a little bit of parking in front of our store was a new concept, 100 years ago, 80 years ago. And Sam's Park and Shop here in Connecticut Park, in Cleveland Park, is one of the first strip malls ever made in the US. Over here, by the way, hang on a second, let me see if I can get this picture. This is the Uptown Theater. The Uptown Theater is one of the great Art Deco era, one of the great 1920s era super theaters. It's got a balcony inside. It can seat like 1,000 people or something like that. It's the place where the big premieres would be held. But sadly now, due to COVID, it went out of business and it's basically empty. So if you've got a hankering to have your own movie theater, that could be your place. All right, over there on my left is the zoo. On my right is a big burger place, Duke's Counter. This is like well known for burgers, Duke's. And actually they just took the masks off the giant lions. So they have these 2 lions out in front of the National Zoo. And up until like last week they had masks on. But I guess the CDC's new directive on outdoor mask wearing has taken effect for the bronze statues. Let's cut over there. The zoo, I believe, is going to open on Friday. If not this Friday, then next week. It'll open next week. There we go. So down on this bridge we have more lions. I wonder if these are the same looking lions as the ones that are at the zoo. They kind of look like it. These are made out of cement. Or stone, not cement. This bridge is really high. This is the Connecticut Avenue Bridge. Over to my left is the Duke Ellington Bridge, which goes into Adams Morgan. The Duke Ellington Bridge has suicide fences because in one year something like 11 people jumped off that bridge. So they put up suicide fences and I was just like, well, aren't the people just going to come over to this bridge? And well, they didn't, I guess. I guess the people going over that bridge were more upset. This apartment building back here. This is on Columbia Road. This is the 2000 block of Columbia Road. But back here, Dwight Eisenhower lived in this building as a junior officer when he was assigned to duty here in Washington, D.C. This is the Wyoming building. And Ike lived here, I think it was about 10, 15 years before he went over to Europe and was the Supreme Allied Commander. So a mid-level officer. He also lived at Fort Myer, which is over by Arlington Cemetery. He did a tour at Fort Myer as well. On my left, we've seen many times. We can go down here, I guess. Lane closed, but not for me. This is where the Reagan assassination took place, the attempted assassination of Ronald Reagan. This garage was not here at the time. It was just a little patio thing. But John Hinckley Jr., he stood right over here by this plaque, this National Historic Place plaque. And this is where John Hinckley stood. Reagan came across where that garage is now, and he was bang, bang, shot right here, thrown into his limousines, and then rushed up this road and then down to George Washington Hospital. I have a video on the 40th anniversary of the Reagan assassination where I take you around the different locations in DC connected to the assassination. You can, I'll put the little link to that in the description. All right, let's make our way back down towards the White House. This guy. See, this is a bicycle courier trick. You got to get up even with the bumper of a guy, otherwise he'll turn right in front of you and you'll go smash into his door. I think I mentioned to some of you, my very first job in Washington, D.C. was a bicycle messenger. I only did it for about a week or two while I was waiting to get a job on Capitol Hill. But I learned some pretty good tricks about biking in the city, ones I still use today. I also learned some interesting lessons about office dynamics. How people treated the couriers as like the scum of the earth because everybody was treating like the receptionist bad in the office, and then, well, it just rolled downhill. When you're a bicycle messenger and you go into an office, some of the receptionists look at you as like, finally, someone I can be mean to. It's just like, okay, whatever. Yeah, the gates are open. We can go in. But we have to get rid of the bike first. So this is Black Lives Matter Plaza. And it's been completely repaved. They tore up this entire street, and the big painting that said Black Lives Matter. Now the government has said, the local government has said, that the big sign had become such a tourist icon that they're going to repaint it very, very quickly, because this had become like a gathering place for a lot of people, and they wanted to restore it. But they just finished painting or repaving yesterday, and the Black Lives Matter sign is gone at the moment. All right, we got a bike rack up here. We'll dump this bike and we'll take you back there. Okay, we're back in the park, and they're ripping up the flowers. The tulips are no more. The park is still pretty empty. There's just not a lot of tourists yet. Now, the Speaker Pelosi is meeting in the White House today, but I don't think we're going to get a view unless she comes out and does a press gaggle here on the north front. It's 10 o'clock right now. That's when, or 11 o'clock, and that's when the meeting is supposed to take place. A media crew set up over here. Not sure from where. The evangelical Christian who's running for president, she's out here at the park. She's here pretty much every other day or so. I don't see the Korean War protester. She's here. And there's quite a few Secret Service setting up over there. Kind of indicate that there might be a press gaggle for Nancy Pelosi later over here. Yep. Now down here, you just saw that guy walk past us. The Secret Service Uniform Division headquarters is around the block here. It used to be right on this street, but then I think they moved off to the left when they built this new complex over here. So you will see a lot of Secret Service agents around here, Uniform Division. So this is Chinatown, what's left of it. I still have a requirement that stores and restaurants must have Chinese characters in the signs. So, for example, you see there's a Potbelly, but underneath there's the Chinese name. There's HSBC, that's Hong Kong Shanghai Banking Corporation, so they're right at home here in this neighborhood. But Walgreens has got a Chinese sign, etc. That's pretty much it. There's not a lot of Chinese businesses left. As this area became gentrified, became very trendy, a lot of the Chinese businesses were pushed out into the suburbs. There's a Chinese mini grocery over there, I think they're still around. Now it's funny, there used to be a Hooters here, and there's no direct translation for Hooters in Chinese, so they translated it as Owl Restaurant. And I was looking at that and I was just like, who's going to go here thinking they're going to eat an owl? I mean, technically I guess that was the correct translation of Hooters, but it just seemed a bit strange. Yeah, but like a lot of retail in DC, things are closed. Places have gone out of business. This is a Chinese shop. This is like one of the few left where you can go and get different random stuff. touristy stuff. Gifts, fine china, porcelain, oriental furniture, Chinese grocery, herbs, and tonics. This is actually a Chinese pharmacy, if I remember properly. They have an old traditional Chinese pharmacy. Yeah, where they put together stuff. Ooh, white rabbit. I like cash. Can't believe this place is still around. Yep. So someone is ordering a traditional Chinese herbal medicine made of different sticks and roots and all that. And that, quote, pharmacist is preparing it. But that's one of the few places left here in Chinatown where you can go for authentic Chinese stuff. All those places down there are westernized. There's a couple down here, a couple Chinese places down here. There's, of course, the Arch. This was a gift from the government of Taiwan, not Beijing. This Chinatown is a very pro-Taiwan Chinatown. It was settled when the nationalists were coming to Washington, D.C., many of them escaping the communists. So, like Chinese New Year, you see Taiwanese flags down here, not mainland Chinese flags. So this place, Jackie Cafe, which is now boarded up, this was in the movie True Lies. There was a scene where Arnold Schwarzenegger was following Bill Pullman, I guess, or who was it? Whoever the guy was, and he followed him into that restaurant. Well, let's go over here to the boarding house. Walk and Roll, this Chinese walk and roll karaoke restaurant place, used to actually be a boarding house. The reason it's famous as a boarding house, the Surrett boarding house, is 604 H Street is said to have been where the conspirators plotted the abduction of Abraham Lincoln in 1865. In this building right here. Down over there is some more traditional Chinese stuff. That's where you can get the Chinatown bus to New York. That's the cheap bus service to New York City. That's like 15 or 20 bucks. And a few other old school Chinese places. Down here is where you go for duck. Chinatown Express. They make pretty good duck. So just around the corner from Chinatown is this old red brick building. This was the pension building for all the Civil War veterans. This is the building that handled all the claims of the Civil War veterans. And if you look at the amazing artwork that is etched into the wall, you see cavalry and infantry and artillery and even naval Navy units of the veterans of the Civil War. Now, today, this building is the National Building Museum, which is a museum of architecture and industry, basically, buildings. Now, we can't go in it right now, unfortunately. It's closed. Oh, what's that? National Guard? National Guard. Oh, I think this is a city COVID testing and or vaccination center. We better check this out. So the DC National Guard is running a testing facility. This is one of the reasons that people were asking to get the National Guards back away from Washington, D.C. from Capitol Protection duty, is that they needed them for COVID vaccine distribution and testing. So over here is the National Law Enforcement Memorial. This is all the police officers and law enforcement officers who have passed away in the line of duty. They add names every year. And they have the watchful lion gazing over those who need protection. Police officers and police departments come from all over the country. This is from Texas, and I'm not sure where that's from. Pennsauken. They come and leave memorials for Jackson Township, New Jersey, FBI Special Agent, because down here are the names of all the law enforcement officers who've been killed in the line of duty for decades and decades. That's actually a new. The National Law Enforcement Museum. That's actually new. Most of these buildings around here are appeals. That's the District of Columbia Court of Appeals. There is like the Military Tribunal Court of Appeals. There's the Administrative Law Court of First Jurisdiction. I mean, there's all these different random courts down in this area, federal and district courts. That's why this area is known as Judiciary Square. Yeah, that's Judiciary Center, so that's another court building. But the building back there, the building with the arched roof, the white-looking building, that is the FBI field office for Washington, D.C. That's where the FBI agents who are in charge of Washington, D.C. operations, they work out of that building. They don't work out of FBI headquarters. They work out of the field headquarters, which is right there. Now, I'm down here at 3rd and D Street Northwest in front of the statue of Albert Pike. However, you'll notice the statue is gone. The statue was ripped down during the George Floyd protest. Albert Pike was a Southern Confederate poet, author, legal scholar, and Mason, was a member of the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry. When the George Floyd protests stormed through this area, they ripped the statue down and lit it on fire, and it has not returned, and I don't know if it ever will be returned. I'm not even sure the status of this statue. I would note that the man who pulled down that statue and lit it on fire was arrested. He is charged for destruction of federal property, because this, I believe, is actually federal property, not DC government property. So the National Park Service currently has the statue in storage, and there's a debate about what to do with it. The DC government has asked for many years to remove that statue or place it in a museum somewhere else. So now that that process has certainly been accelerated by the protests last summer. Now, when the House and Senate are in session, well, actually they're technically in session today, but normally this parking lot is filled with staff vehicles. The staff will park here. You can kind of tell they're all work from home right now. Only a bare minimum of essential employees are currently working in the Congress right now. The Senate is in session right now. I see the flag is up over the Senate side. That's this side, which means the Senate's in session. But technically, they're probably in a adjournment vote or a quorum call where they basically just stall for hours counting heads. Technically, they're in session, but technically, they're not doing anything. I can't see the House flag at the moment because of the tree in the way. This still remains under lock and key. I believe they're talking about a $2 billion upgrade. They want to put a pop-up fence, some sort of fence that's underground but can lift up in times of emergency to surround the Capitol building. So they're debating a pop-up fence, $2.1 billion. Really, when it's 2.1, does the 0.1 really matter? I mean, give or take 100 million. What does it really matter? So the House is in session too. You can see the flag over on the right-hand side. That means the House is in session. Oh, the fountain is turned on. We haven't seen the fountain turned on in a while. This is the Bartholdi fountain. This is the Capitol power plant here on my right, which I believe is now all natural gas. It used to be coal. There used to be huge political debates about the future of this plant, whether they could keep burning coal. As you can imagine, some senators and congressmen from certain states were very big advocates of burning coal. All right, let's go down over here and try not to get killed as we go over the train tracks. These are freight train lines. Oh, and there's actually a train coming out of a tunnel down there. We just came across New Jersey Avenue under the freeway, and over here is a Whole Foods and a really luxury apartment building that's known as the Agora apartment buildings. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, also known as AOC to many of you in the political worlds, she lives here in the Agora building, just down from the Capitol, only a few blocks. Pretty nice place. Most of these are all luxury condominiums that were built in the last 15 to 20 years. All right, let's go get a Korean taco. There's space available. Sweetgreen is a DC chain that's spreading across the East Coast right now. It's got a valuation of like $1 billion, I read. It's like fast, healthy, casual. Bulgogi tacos, Korean beef, Korean steak. It's good. Okay, so lunch is done, and well, we'll walk. Let's just walk. Just to take a shortcut.
Waterfront. Step back. Doors open.
We got a red light, so we can go on into the park. These guys are still working on the tulips. Alrighty, we're gonna head into Georgetown now, passing through George Washington University. We're on Pennsylvania Avenue. It's pretty quiet right now. Like a normal rush hour, I wouldn't be on this road. There's too many cars. But right now, well, it's pretty dead. I say that as I run into some tourists. I honestly don't know how many statues of George Washington there are in DC. This is one of many. So these row houses right here actually have a big building behind them, big modern building, and these make up the Embassy of Spain. So that's the Spanish embassy building right over there. Kind of hidden next to the campus of George Washington. Hey, how'd that guy get in front of me again? He probably followed the rules and went with the green lights. This is not the Spanish embassy. This is the Spanish mission to the Organization of American States. A diplomatic mission is not technically an embassy. It has a distinct purpose, just to represent Spain's interest at the OAS. Blue skies. Green. We should go ride Rock Creek one day. Take you up there for a bit. It's been a while since I've taken you up this hill. In fact, I don't think we've gone up here since the sun came out, since winter ended. So let's go take a look at some of the buildings up this street. Now, we have seen this place a few times. This is the Italian embassy. But when you come up here, you can see it's actually like two different buildings separated by an atrium. Back over here is the backside of the Brazilian embassy. You normally see that when we go down Mass Avenue. But we can come up this side street and you can see the backside. Up over here is the Embassy of Sri Lanka. Is right here. And this is the Polish ambassador's house. The Polish ambassador lives here. And back up here on the right, there's a lot of cars here today. Up here on the right is Hillary Clinton's house. And this is Greek. That's the Danish embassy. What is that? Copenhagen. Some sort of bonnet thing. Funky. So there is Bill and Hillary Clinton's house in Washington, D.C. They don't live here all the time. This is just their Washington address when they visit. I don't know who lives here. Not a diplomat. And there's the Denmark diplomats going. There's on the sidewalk. So we slept over here. This is the former Shah of Iran ambassador's house. And then this is the former embassy of Iran. Now empty, except for a bunch of contractors who are trying to maintain it. South African embassy. This is doubled in size once apartheid ended. It was just originally this building. Then they added a new wing. Once they had to represent more people, I guess. Well, so that was my Wednesday, guys. Sometimes life's a Tuesday and sometimes it's a Wednesday. Hope you enjoyed. See you next time.